After crushing these guys out yesterday and being very happy with the results, it made me realize that I also have these weird bat-riding Morbeg-Knights. And now I'm just kind of infatuated with these flesh eater quartz, so I just want to paint some more. But first, we need to throw some basing on. So hobby how you want, and there's no wrong way to do it. I tend to keep my bases really plain. And for these guys, where I just want that grim and bit grimy on top of a very plain base, but have some texture, I like to use this coconut husk. It's just a very easy, ready to go basing material that gives a bunch of variety of size and texture. And it's ready real quick. Now this stuff is soft and super porous, so to make sure it doesn't want to endlessly absorb paint and to make it rock hard for gaming, I like to drop some extra thin super glue on it. Now this stuff is pretty awful stuff and it's going to smoke and the fumes are not exactly healthy. So if you're going to use it in a super well ventilated area, or I'm just going to use my airbrush booth to vent it outside. Now that these freaks have a nice, colorful zenithal on them, the same as I used yesterday, it's time to do a little more brushwork. Now I firmly believe that combining acrylics with oil paints is the easiest way to get really nice looking miniatures with really zero skill involved. It's a process that really has the lowest skill floor. You hardly even need any brush control, and yet like most artistic endeavors, the skill ceiling is infinite. I'll show you what I mean. So starting from a nice, colorful zenithal is pretty key. Because the highlights, or at least the higher points of the model, are brighter than anything down low, it's going to make your life much easier going forward. Obviously I use an airbrush, but if Rattlecan is what you have access to, then do that. And then we're going to go through and just start roughly picking out different textures and materials. And you want to be neat, but you don't need to be meticulous. The oil really helps cover up all our mistakes. Because the real magic of this process happens with the oil paints, which hide all of the mistakes magically. I really just do very half-hearted base coats. They don't need to be carefully done. They don't need to be complete, especially areas like the hair. There's some of this ghost green that's popping through in the recesses because they're all going to get covered by the oil paints. And let's do that. Rather than using anything pre-mixed, enamels or oil washes from miniature sort of branded companies, I just use inexpensive tubes of oil paint, like the academic stuff. And that allows me full control over how thick or thin I make this wash. I tend to make it much thicker than you'd kind of typically think of as a wash. And so I'm going to take this crimson red and just slop it over the whole mini. Now I want these guys to be quite a bit darker underneath. Add some more depth to the shadows. So I'm going to grab some black. Similarly thin it down. And just start kind of jabbing it into all the underneath and the shaded areas. Once the paint is set, we're left with this gloppy, goopy mess. The real butts stage of painting. But from here, it's kind of the part that I think is the most fun or satisfying. Removing paint with a sponge or highlighting reductively. Now this process, we can just kind of mindlessly swipe top down and create some natural highlights and shadows, or you can be a little more intentional, removing more paint where you want it to be brighter. At this point, you could absolutely stop and they'd look great on any tabletop. But I feel like just with a few more minutes and acrylic paint, we can just bring a little more attention to some details that we want and just elevate them a little bit more. Not bad. Oil wash. Oils over acrylics, acrylics over oils over acrylics, whatever you want to call it. I really think it's the easiest, most accessible way to get pretty great results for the tabletop. At the very least, it's what I've been really enjoying recently. And so I'm going to ride that train until it derails. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. You are awesome. I'll see you tomorrow.